5 miles, Angel 6.
Roger, that's the only one I've got right there where the pointer is.
Welcome back to the channel. I'm your host, Prickly Hedgehog, and you're watching, or listening, to the DCS Situation Report. ED's latest newsletter focused on the end of the lunar sail, which, if you didn't dip into it, ended on the 29th, so you'll need to wait for the next one if you're hoping for some bargains. The arrival of the fabulous-looking Mirage F1EE and 2 new campaigns, Speed and Angels for the F-14B and the MAD AH-64 campaign, which I believe is the first campaign for the Apache to date, unless I am mistaken. Now, not covered in the letter, in detail at least, was the massive changelog pumped out for the open beta patch last week. So let's begin with the changelog highlights. The changelog highlight was, of course, wide-ranging, covering issues in-game like submarines not being able to engage or attack ships, through to the module manager now allowing you to install or uninstall the Caucasus map. And I was very curious about that little update and the number of pictures covering the Caucasus on the ED screenshots homepage. And I'm wondering if ED are in the process of overhauling the map. It is long overdue, and as an entry-level free map to the game, I do believe it needs some work. Let's be fair, it's not as enticing as the Marianas from a visual experience, so we'll see what happens with that and whether I'm right. Digging further into the changelog, we saw major and minor updates to most of the aircraft. The F-16 saw the introduction of the alternate or gear handle, the RWR updates, and of course the emergency hook, which saw a flurry of frivolous attempts to conduct carrier landings in DCS world. And if you were confused about what that hook actually is designed for, well, like most land-based aircraft, hooks, while essentially the same concept, they're not as robust enough for landing on the carrier. They are designed to arrest the aircraft in an emergency situation, typically as it rolls down towards the end of the runway, and you've started to bleed off some of the energy coming in from that landing. Too much speed, of course, will damage the hook, potentially damage the aircraft, so on and so forth. But you DCSs, you're going to try and land that F-16 on the aircraft carrier. And as entertaining as it was, obviously it has no bearing to real-world application. Now, the F-16 received several fixes in addition to these updates as well, including, we talked about the RWR last week, and there are several other fixes as well. So do check out the changelog for more information, and Wags' videos, which I mentioned last week as well in the previous SITREP, and there were links to those videos. This also goes for the F-18, which again saw changes to its RWR, and as I said, we saw that last week. There is now also a new human pilot salute, which is pretty cool. The Apache had an Israeli livery added, as well as patches for the pilot, and DCS YouTuber Volk pointed out some inconsistencies with the new complex INS system for the Black Shark 3 recently, which were not recreated in hot starts in terms of alignment accuracy, and the ED team have implemented some fixes for that. The manual alignment should be closer to the hot start one, and they added some animation adjustments to the motion blur for the blades and changed some of the startup sounds. And I've been enjoying, I must say, flying this module, which has quite a unique handling characteristic, and I'm enjoying what they have done with it. So stay tuned for more videos on the Black Shark as time allows. Now, Argus, who have produced the F1 module for us, included a huge number of changes in that particular aircraft, and I must say it has been a very popular aircraft for the DCS community. As mentioned, the F.1EE is now a flyable module, and this will allow us to do air-to-air refueling in the jet. This is part of the core module, and therefore there is no additional purchase needed to get this particular aircraft variant to enjoy in the game. And it's a great marketing ploy by the team, and we will see further iterations of this aircraft as well as time goes on. Now, the jet features the new ALR 300 RWR, which provides threat displays, and the radar has also seen further improvements. The team have been tweaking the flight model and the engine system. If you abuse or mismanage it, you could see flameouts and even fires under high AOA and low speed attitudes, or failing to heed startup procedures. There are a host of other changes too. The aircraft receiving the largest patch update this week, including a new weapon, the Super Matra missile. Now, I believe in the real world, a variant of one of these was accidentally imported into the United States back in 2020 as part of some parts that were shipped to a private aircraft company, and a missile was landed at a Florida airport and had to be disposed of by the military, and a little bit of an incident there. So it's a pretty sophisticated missile, and we'll see how that operates in game. It has a range of around about 40 kilometers, I believe, so stay tuned for more information on that as time goes on. I'm curious to see how that compares to some of the other missiles that we have, like say the AMRAAM or even the Phoenix. Now, as I said, this has been a popular module from the team, and sadly one I haven't had much time to fly, just with other commitments right now. So keep your eyes peeled for further enhancements to that flight model and the electronic systems and weapons within the aircraft, and also for the other versions of the aircraft that I mentioned before, which will become a reality as well in the game. And these are the M and BE versions of this fantastic aircraft. As a result of the patch, various campaigns received updates too, and RASBAM's South Atlantic map team have been continuing to improve the map, which, as the biggest in the game, is of course a massive undertaking. The team advised that they have added and corrected lakes across the map, added new settlements, and several grass airports, including Goose Green. I will provide more comprehensive updates at a later stage as time allows. The last segment of today's SITREP features two new campaigns being introduced. The Apache campaign by Stone Sky is known as MAD AH-64D campaign, and you'll play the part of a UAE Special Operations Captain working with NATO, and you'll be conducting missions and ship qualifications as part of Operation Sweltering Heat, based in the Arabian Gulf, so very appropriate there. The various missions appear to allow you to get to grips with weapons within the Apache's arsenal and the Apache's capability as you move through the campaign. And it seems to be something of a theme these days, with campaigns breaking down individual skills. We saw that with the Raven 1 campaign and Reflected Simulations Zone 5 campaign for the F-14. And now Reflected Sims has introduced the Speed and Angels campaign for the F-14B this time, and he has teamed up with former F-14 pilot Paco Garici, which is really awesome. And this campaign is designed to challenge your flying skills and force you to use the big jet for the fighter that it is. I had a little play with it yesterday in a rare day off. The first mission sees you trying to fly within parameters to get the best turn circles, loops, and Immelman maneuvers. And it's challenging to do this in the F-14 because it requires a lot of instrument scanning and not just being a HUD baby. There are work cycles with aircraft of this nature, and they require more than just staring out of the front of the aircraft to manage your SA and aircraft orientation to time and space. It's easy to become fixated on one instrument, and the F-14's HUD isn't exactly state-of-the-art, so it's not the best place to find all of the information you need about what the aircraft is doing. So yeah, you're going to have to learn to be a real pilot in this one, and I love the campaign's thrust vector in that direction. F-14 fans, I think, will really get a kick out of it, and I'm hoping it will improve my own general piloting skills, and not just with the F-14. Well, I think that will do for this week's SITREP. It's been a heck of a week for me, and I will refer you to the changelog proper for more in-depth details about the open beta patch. Let me know what you think about the Mirage F1EE and any of our topics this week. As I said, this has been a bit of a personal challenges week for me and major work commitments, so I'm looking forward to a few days off next week to recharge and get the schedule back on track, and of course my DCS commitments back online. Don't forget to like though and subscribe, and if you want to support the channel more, you may wish to consider the super thanks button. Again, I appreciate all the support, and I apologize for the delay in this week's newsletter. Unfortunately, that's just how things work out. and I hope to bring you more DCS content in the coming weeks. Stay tuned. In the meantime, take care, and we'll see you next time on the DCS SITREP.